What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to Comic Breakdown. Today's gonna be a fun video. Today we're putting all 6 issues of Fantastic Four One World Under Doom together. This is the Fantastic Four issues 28 through 33, and this also brings an end to this Fantastic Four run, with an issue number 1 starting up next week. With Doom taking over the world, there's a lot going on. One of the best parts of this story, though, is Franklin Richards becoming Galactus. We all know that Powerhouse and his abilities are just through the roof. His reality warping is damn near unmatched. So much so that Marvel took him and kind of did a little trick with him. They kind of put the genie back in the bottle, if you will. They've made it to where Franklin Richards made himself forget how powerful he was, to make it appear as if he didn't have powers. But one time every year, he is hit with an epiphany. He is reminded of his power, and in that time frame, and this is when he rewrites things. When he goes to sleep, he wakes up forgetting he has powers. Everybody assumed he didn't have them anymore. And so while our heroes battle Doom, while they try to fix the thing and get his powers back, we are finally getting to see Franklin Richards use his powers yet again, rewriting the universe and becoming one of the most terrifying villains that the Marvel Universe has ever seen. And so with that being said, let's dive into this breakdown. Alright gang, so we're picking up with the Fantastic Four issue 28. This is where it's all starting off right here. And Doom, now Sorcerer Supreme, he sealed off the nation of Latveria, and Reed Richards can't help but feel there's something going on here. That there's gotta be meaning to this. There's gotta be purpose to why Doom is doing this. We have Reed Richards that is doing everything he can to understand magic. He recognizes this is his weakest field of study. The truth is, it doesn't line up with the logic of the world, of physics, of quantum mechanics, and so he wants to try and understand it. Add in the fact that Doom is hiding himself away, a magical barrier that is protecting him. If they can figure out a way to get in, they can figure out what Doom is doing, because Reed Richards, he's actually kind of scared right now. He is overly concerned on what is happening right now. Doom could be plotting anything. This is where Sue gets the idea to actually talk to somebody that knows some magic, somebody that might be able to help them. This is what takes us to Dane Whitman, aka the Black Knight. Sue thought of this because the ebony blade had once sliced through her force field. It did so like it was nothing, and so if it's able to cut through her force fields like that, it might be able to cut through the magical barrier in Latveria. You can also add in the fact that Whitman has a master's degree in physics, so if there's ever a man to talk to about logic and magic, about science and magic, it would be the Black Knight. But when they arrive, what they find is that Dane, he's changed up things a bit. And if you've been following the channel for a while, you know what happened with the Black Knight. He took the ebony chalice, crown, and blade. He melted them down, and he created the ebony throne. He currently has a sidekick that is out there, and she is being the Black Knight while he operates from the throne. Together, they are the Black Knight. But Dane is the one that holds the true power of what it means to be the Black Knight. The reason that he had done this, though, is because the ebony blade, it was a cursed blade. It fed on hate. It gave you incredible strength, but it also took your soul. When he sits on this throne, he can see hidden truths. Other times, he sees all sorts of things. So he's saying, I don't have the ebony blade any longer, but there might be a blade that you can use. The blade that you're looking for is the Fated Blade, a blade that can slice through anything. It can slice through time itself, and it never repairs. So if you're trying to get into Latveria, there's no better weapon to make a door with. The only problem is, this sword disappeared ages ago. Forged in the 1300s. It's a thing of legend. Now Reed at this point is getting extremely frustrated, saying maybe it would be more productive if we discussed physics instead of magical swords that nobody can find. And this is when the Black Knight starts to write down some equations. He writes them on a piece of paper and hands them to Reed. But Reed looks at him and he's like, I don't understand any of this. Like, this is all very inaccurate. This is really just gibberish. Dane saying, man, I really thought I had something something with that. But I want to help you guys out, and I think I know how to do so. But it's better if I show you than explain it to you. With the use of his magical powers, we see the three of them teleported to the front lines of World War I. As they arrive, we see that they're not able to use their powers. They are currently magically possessing two men on the front lines, temporarily borrowing them, and they will be none the wiser once they actually leave. And though they're a little bit confused, he goes on to tell them that we're looking for the Fated Blade. The last time anybody knew where it was in this time era. After this, it was lost forever. And though it was technically lost in this time as well, with World War I going on, there's prime opportunity to go looking for it because no one's going to be paying attention. Though this is all a little bit outrageous, Reed does see the opportunity that they have here. With the two of them agreeing, they get to work. They start researching. They learn the legend of the blade, who was said to have forged it, what history has been recorded of it. At the end of the day, this is an archaeology issue, with them being able to deduce the likely location. Reed Richards creating some metal detectors. They go start looking through the fields, and eventually they come across it. They come across the Fated Blade. This is when the Black Knight says, now that we have found the blade, we can move it to some place that it's not going to be lost. But the location that he picks, it's a location that is going to be completely obliterated by World War I. And Sue's got to wonder, how does moving the blade help us? Because surely now that we know where it is, we can leave it here and come back in present time. Sue's wondering, what the hell's going on? When the Black Knight tells him the equations. Nobody understands what he's talking about, but then his tone changes. Says that the equations are nothing, just like he is. This is when the Black Knight attacks the two of them, knocking them into a magical portal. Reed quickly deduces what's going on here. The way the Black Knight switched from calling him Doctor to Richards, almost like he sounded like Doom. And this is where we see Doom before them. He sounded like Doom because it was Doom. He had influenced the Black Knight through his contact with the Ebon Siege. He performed exactly like Doom wanted him to. And Doom knew that there were those that would work against him, some even living on the astral plane. Of course, they forged a weapon that could kill Doom. He, of course, destroyed all of his enemies, but not before they hid the magical blade. They waited for somebody to find it, somebody to wield it against him, and so he sent the two of them into the past. He sent them looking for it. And now that they found it for him, the Fated Blade, forged in the 1300s, they never considered the name for a moment. Middle English, another word for fate, was Doom. This was the Doom Blade, a magical weapon created specifically to take out Doom. But now he has destroyed this blade. When Reed asks him what he is planning, Doom tells him, I'm not planning anything. Planning was done months ago. I've already achieved what I've come to do. Putting the two of them in a bubble, he tells them, putting it plainly, he's taking over the world. That he wanted them to know before he killed them, a final gift to them, so that you might understand the depth and breadth of this loss. That you were never able to stop me. As the bubble they are trapped in slowly closes in on them, Sue gets to thinking. She pushes with all her might, but her powers aren't gonna stop him. And then she realized the moments with the Black Knight. He was trying to warn them. The equations at the time, they didn't make any sense. They seemed like absolute gibberish. But in those equations, there was a hidden message. Dane had a graduate degree in physics. There's no way he would create an equation that seemed like absolute gibberish without it being a code. That code was a spell. Magical words to trigger a spell that once cast would break them free. Unfortunately, Reed has never been able to cast a spell. He has spent the last 6 months studying magic, trying to figure it out. Now it is their only hope, their only chance of survival. Reed saying those words. He sends them home. They arrive back in New York City. Reed has cast his first spell, but right now there is no chance for further studying magic. There is no time for any of them because Doom has become the Emperor of Earth. And this is gonna hop us into issue number 29. It has been 7 days since Doom has become Emperor of the World. They teamed up with all the other heroes to see what they could find, and then they went to Latveria to stop him. They failed and they failed again. With everything being so crazy, Ben thought it was a good idea that him and Sue went out to have a little off time, a little R&R. This is where they go into the city and they meet up with Jen. They meet up with She-Hulk. No kids, no spouses, no doom, no worries. And so they all sit down, they catch up, they have great discussion, so on and so forth. Eventually, the topic does get on the topic of doom. And getting an attorney's perspective on what's going on, She-Hulk says that nothing he's doing is technically legal, but if nobody enforces any laws, he can get away with it. Just like there's laws on the books in the United States that some date back centuries. Some date back to the birth of America, some date back 100 years, but obviously some of these are extremely outdated. For example, like when I lived in, I think it was either Alabama or Georgia, there was a law on the books that said you could beat your wife on the courthouse steps, but that was the only location that it was acceptable. Oh, I believe it was on Sundays as well. There's some crazy laws that were out there, but essentially what she's saying is that there's laws on the books, but if nobody's enforcing these laws, the laws don't necessarily matter. And that's what's happening with Doom. The world leaders, they're turning a blind eye. One of the biggest things that Doom has been doing is turning the nation against vampires. Though that's not necessarily a hard thing to do. After the events of Blood Hunt, I mean, hell, even before Blood Hunt, nobody liked vampires. But Blood Hunt made vampires despised, and Doom has made them the target. So when the three go walking down the street, they see a vampire family that is being attacked. 2 children, a mother and a father. Doom has been using vampires as his scapegoat, as the boogeyman, his ascend to power. And right now we have a mob of humans that is chasing them down. When they run into our 3 heroes, Sue puts up a barrier. The mob calls for them to kill them, that they've seen the others. They saw Johnny, they saw Reed killing these guys. Of course, that was during Blood Hunt, and that was in self-defense. In this situation, you guys are a mob trying to lynch these people. But this is when a kid jumps in with 2 daggers, a Latvian flag as a cape, and he stabs the parents, driving those daggers into their chest, killing these vampires on the spot. This makes the mob go irate. Everyone starts closing in around him. They start calling them species traitors, vampire lovers, raising their fists to the sky, saying that only Doom can save us. Because of this, they had to flee. Sue creating a disc and flying them out of here. They head back to Arizona. And now the Fantastic Four, they got 2 vampire children with them. Now they need to figure out what the hell they're gonna do. These kids are gonna need blood, because if that bloodlust, if it takes hold of them, they'll eat everybody. And when the little girl comes up to Reed, her name being Brooke, she's asking Reed, can you fix my brother and me? She believes they're broken. Everyone's scared of them, and this hunger takes them over. Other kids don't get hungry like they do, and they don't like the hunger. They don't like being these monsters. That's when Ben, he scoops up that little girl, and he tells her, like, Reed's gonna find a cure for you. He's gonna figure this out with that big brain of his. And so Reed gets to work. It's not gonna be long before Brooke and her brother go feral. She-Hulk and the Thing being the only ones that can't be bit, so they're trying to keep hold of the children, while they become ravenous. While they start trying to bite and bite and bite, Reed is working away. What he creates is a set of 4 plant-based synthetic globins. This is enough to chemically mimic hemoglobin, at least in the digestive tract. So this isn't technically a cure, but it will allow them to live normal lives. He essentially created a food that mimics blood. Reed Richards has created a treatment for vampirism. They no longer have to feed. They no longer go mad with hunger. And after Blood Hunt, them being able to be in the sun, vampires get a win today. Over the next few hours, Reed Richards, he distributes his formula across the globe. He gives it away for free. At least for today, the propaganda, it collapsed. Bloodlust has been treated. A cure made in any kitchen. They may not have taken down Emperor Doom, but they took a blow to his propaganda war machine. This is just a small victory in the big war to come. But they know as they return home, as the kids head off to school, they look across the street and what they see is while they're winning the small battles, this war is far from over. The neighbor's house covered in Doom flags. Banners saying believe in Doom. Doom is the way. Trust in Doom. And only Doom can save us. This is what takes us over to issue number 30. Coming from the pages of One World Under Doom, the Fantastic Four confronted Emperor Doom. They battled Doom and they lost, with him now being Sorcerer Supreme. He uses his magical powers and he cures Ben. The Thing no longer exists. Ben has hit rock bottom. After these events, he tries to bed rot, though Alicia's not going to allow him to do so. She gets him out of bed, she gets him into New York City, she gets him experiencing life without being recognized as the Thing. But when they walk down an alley, when a gunman puts a gun into their face, Ben reacts on instinct, like he has done 1,000 times. He pits himself between innocence and danger. He neutralizes the threat. He grabs the gun. But this time, that bullet goes through his hand. It drops him. The gunman grabs the person, goes to run off, but a Doombot is able to grab him. A Doombot is what stops him. Taking us later, we pick up with Ben in the hospital. Ben has been wanting to get rid of his powers for so long, but now that they're gone, he feels useless. He tells Reed that I need my powers. I need them to return. We have to figure out how to get them back. But with everybody saying goodbye, him sitting here having a burger, he thinks to himself that he's got to do something. And so he wakes up the next morning and he goes to the prison. He goes to talk to Philip Masters, his father-in-law. And he's telling Philip, like, I need you to do something. I need to be strong for my wife. You need me to be strong for your daughter. I want you to fix me. I want you to make me the Thing again. Handing him some psychic clay, he says that I'm not the puppet master in that way. I can reshape minds, but not bodies. And he even tells Ben, like, the concern that you see on Phil's face. He's like, Ben, you can't do this, man. This is too much. And Ben knows that he can't change bodies, but his confidence, his happiness. The Thing wasn't a burden on everybody. And very reluctantly, Phil does it. He creates it, and Ben takes off. When Ben goes home, they sit down for dinner and we see that Ben is acting very unusual. I mean, literally a blind woman can see how ridiculous Ben is being, how happy he is, a constant smile on his face. It's not long before Alicia and Ben are both headed to see Phil, and Alicia is pissed. But then he explains, like, this isn't me, that you're right, everything I've touched, everything I've ever looked at, I've destroyed. Even my own daughter's sight. He apologizes for being a horrible father, but he wanted her to know that while he's made mistakes, he's not controlling her husband. He brought the clay to Phil. All he did was mold the image of Ben, a blank slate. He gave it to Ben and Ben took control himself. He let Ben decide who he wanted to be. And this is when Ben tells her, please don't fix it. That I don't want to go back to lacking confidence, to being unhappy, to being miserable. But Alicia tells him that you have to heal. That what you're doing right now, it's a shortcut. That she never loved him for his strength. She loved him because of who he was. Every bit of him, every aspect of him. This is where we see Alicia. She destroys that clay doll. And later that day, thanks to Emperor Doom, there is a jailbreak at the raft. Every cell door opened up. Supervillains pouring out of the facility. All of them but one. All but Philip Masters. Remaining in his cell alone. Forgotten. Simply trying to become a man worthy of his daughter's love. This is what takes us to issue number 31. Our story picks us up with Val. She is the one that gives us narration throughout this issue. All of this started with her godfather, Victor Von Doom. But really, it started 26 hours ago, while Ben is at home, trying to adjust, trying to really figure out what his life is now that he's not the Thing. Back in New York City, we have the Devastator. We have the Fantastic Four, and they're currently taking him on. But in the midst of this battle, we see that Johnny Storm, he loses his flame. His flame turns off. Reed jumps in to catch him, and Sue's able to take down the Devastator. While this was a successful day, Johnny's trying to figure out what the heck's going on with his powers. He can't turn them on at all. It's as they feared. When one of them loses their powers, all of them lose their powers. And so as a family, they sit down and they discuss this. They discuss on what their options may be. This is when Joe comes up with an idea. Pretty simple idea. Why don't you guys expose yourself to the same rays that gave you your powers? And even Ben's wondering, why couldn't we do that? The problem is, these aren't typical cosmic rays. The ones that hit them were different. They were unique. But those rays, they only existed at a single moment in history. And they know they can't go back in time and try to rewrite things. It could mess with history. It could ruin everything. But Franklin tells them that's not the only way we can get cosmic rays. We live in a multiverse. That we could go to another universe, use their cosmic rays, and maybe this will work for Ben. And so everybody suits up, everybody heads out. They go into the past of an alternate universe, and they put Ben into space. They have him take all those cosmic rays, exposed to its full power. The rest of the Fantastic Four were shielded from the storm, and beneath them, the 4 explorers on this world's Marvel rocket. They land on Earth, and they become the Fantastic Four. But sadly, Ben didn't change. Already having the next coordinates punched in, they head to the next universe. They go to try this again. Trying it again, it doesn't work. Seeing some crazy different variations of the Fantastic Four. No matter the case, Ben is not getting his powers back. Every time, it has been failure. And Val, looking at her parents, she notices that there's something going on. Something they're quietly not talking about. Sue is losing her powers. Her shields are becoming less and less powerful. But she says nothing. She does nothing. This time, Ben takes the full blast of this, and he does transform. But when the Fantastic Four of this universe land on Earth, they remain unchanged. Ben had absorbed most of the cosmic rays meant for that ship. They only got a minor dose, which means they never had the lasting effects that made them the Fantastic Four. And so, Mom and Dad will never conceive Franklin, never conceive Val. Uncle Ben and Aunt Alicia, they'll never adopt Nikki and Joe. In one terrible moment, everything changes. In one fell swoop, it appears that everything ceases to exist. This is what takes us to issue number 32, the world where Franklin Richards becomes Galactus. Now, Sue's first action, she tried putting a protective force field around every member of the Fantastic Four, the children and all, caught in a Colossus temporal maelstrom, one that is rewriting history from the past through to the future. Even Sue's hardest constructs wouldn't be able to withstand this energy forever. Slowly but surely, Val watches every single one of the people she loves disappear completely. Her mind survives, and she wakes up here. She wakes up in a strange world. In a world which a Fantastic Four never existed. And Reed used to go on about a question, put them in a situation. His favorite thought experiment on long spaceship rides. If you woke up somewhere with no knowledge of where you are, how would you determine where you are in the universe? And so she goes to the libraries. She goes to the internet. She looks up everything she can find on Ben, on Alicia, on Reed, on Sue, each of them having 2 kids. Franklin and Mary, but it is completely different kids. Turning off the computer screen, what she sees, Val is Mary. She gets the address and then she goes home. She goes to find Reed and Sue. And while she's greeted by her parents, something is hugely off here. Val goes on to explain that she's not Mary, that her name is Valeria, that she is their daughter from a different timeline. Being hit with this information, all they say is, "That's nice. Franklin will deal with it." Then they kind of slam the door in her face. Something is obviously wrong with the two of them. So she goes outside, she sits on the steps, and she examines the data. She finally figures out what's been bothering her ever since she arrived. The Fantastic Four, they were the first family. They did the impossible. They did what no one else could. They saved the world time and time again. Which means without the Fantastic Four, the Earth shouldn't exist. But somehow it's here. Somehow it manages to survive. Not unless somebody else has been protecting it. And that's when she looks up. She sees her brother. He got here first. He won every fight. He saved every day. But still too young and too soon. Her brother, Franklin Richards, became Galactus. And he shows up asking, "Why are you upsetting our parents?" Noticing that something is wrong with Mary, he gets ready to go fix her, but then he gets a notice that there's a terrorist attack in the European region. He disappears in the blink of an eye, and this is where Mary is grabbed by Jean Grey. It is taking all of her power to hide the two of them, that if they get recognized, it's gonna be a bad day. Jean is taking her to one of the few places where Franklin can't see. Jean Grey is taking her to her husband, Namor, former Kingdom of Atlantis. He has aqua telepathy, enough to disguise his mind and make it appear like he's just a fish. And while this is working, it takes pretty much all of his effort to maintain this, to keep him hidden away from Richards. But they know that Val isn't from here. That means she knows things that they don't. They want to know everything there is to know about Franklin Richards. Between the three of them, they assemble the true history of the world. When the force field was dissolved, Val's mind was moved to Mary's body, the closest genetic match. For him, the closest genetic match was the embryo inside of his mother. That developing brain was insufficient to sustain the memories of Franklin, but it did somehow take his powers that Val thought were long gone. And so this new Franklin with the powers of a god, born to parents who were loving, hopeful, and powerless, fallible, human, without the Fantastic Four, Franklin solved the world's problems. While Sue and Reed, they meant well. They used him and used his powers from the youngest of ages. So when Galactus arrived, they put up the little baby to Galactus, and with a wave of his hand, Franklin erased Galactus. And so from that day forward, Franklin, he was tasked with fixing everything, from stopping all the conflicts, just a child. He soon decided to correct the personalities of every person behaving badly. Everyone would be good now. He made himself into the biggest thing he had ever seen. He made himself into Galactus. He performed lobotomies on the souls of everybody, never facing a problem that he couldn't solve by a mind swipe. Villains, heroes, friends, it didn't matter. He never lost. A child with unlimited power. It was always meant to be a disaster. How could it be anything else? The question is, how do we defeat a god? But they don't. Professor Xavier tried and he was wiped away in a second. The truth is, they can't win. There's no going back in time because Franklin, he's blocked that. But Franklin thinks like a kid. It would make sense that he stops people from traveling through time, but what about information? She could build a machine that kind of sends a microscopic temporal wormhole back to her old body, back to send enough information to prevent any of this from happening. It takes her days to create this, but they're finally ready. They activate the device. A microsecond later, they've already lost. Franklin opening up the ceiling. The Devourer of Souls has arrived. Namor is the first to go, wiped away in an instant. Jean and Val are next, their minds being wiped as they speak. And this is what picks us up in the blank white nothingness. Franklin and his sister. Val is sitting here explaining everything that has happened. Here in this mindscape, hanging on to this instant between life and death. Val can feel him trying to erase her, but he tells her that there's not enough of your mind to be sent back. He made sure of this. He tells her that you've already lost. Val knows that you can't defeat a god. He is power incarnate. She can't win, but she just has to make sure that Franklin loses. This is when Franklin begins to shatter. He shrinks down. Val knew there was never gonna be enough time to send her whole mind back. Too much data. So they came up with a faster solution. She only sent back 4 words. 4 words placed at the right place at the right time prevents all of this from happening. She hugs her brother and tells him that this isn't your fault, that you deserved better. But I know who you are. You're not my brother. You're a different person. I've seen the kid that you should have been. I'm sorry that you never got a chance to be him. With this all breaking away, we pick up earlier. We pick up when Val notices that there's something off with her parents. And those 4 words go into her mind. She tells Reed to stop, not to press the button because she just got the craziest idea. This is what takes us to issue number 33 and the final issue of this series. The 4 words that she sent back to herself was harvest the Big Bang. They've been trying to rack their brains and figuring out what the best course of action is. They kept going to the moment those cosmic rays came, but why not go back to the Big Bang? The cosmic rays are going to be there. They expose Ben to the abundant cosmic rays that are there, and that should fix him. Now, the universe, it was created quickly. So quickly it is almost unperceivable. Not to mention the ridiculous heat, the antimatter. You would be absolutely eradicated within a second of arrival, which is true, but they only need to be there for nanoseconds. They time travel back to the Big Bang just long enough to expose Ben to the rays. It's actually safer for them to do this than going back to their origins. This should carry less historical weight, with it being very risky. The Fantastic Four, they all agree, we have to try it. The biggest problem is this is going to be in nanoseconds. This means everything has to be computerized. That means Herbie is going to be their pilot, and Herbie is about to get a huge upgrade. He can think faster, and in this, Herbie feels like he's almost something more complex, something different, pleasant, crammed with computer machinery at the highest possible density. He has grown and changed. He is ready to save everybody. They build their chamber that is going to protect them. They're ready to make their go. As everybody loads in, they plug Herbie into the computer. As Sue uses what power she can to create a force field, they engage the programming. In the blink of an eye, they're gone. The Fantastic Four journey to the Big Bang. What happens next? It all happens in nanoseconds. Ben is exposed to the cosmic rays. Herbie orders the ship to return back to the present, but it fails. Already, the ship is beginning to be annihilated. No longer sufficient resources to send the ship back. Power connections are failing. Plasma blasts in, incinerating the vessel's hyperspeed. But Herbie has time. He uses these precious picoseconds. He considers the problem. He understands that instead of sending the entire craft back to the present, he's gonna send back just the occupants. The temporal warp forming around them. He recognizes that this isn't gonna work either. The ship has still failed during this time of modifications. There is no longer enough power remaining to send all 5 of them back. Too much matter demanding too much energy. But he has finally arrived at a decision, one he came to instantly: remove himself from the transport list. 4 nanoseconds remain before the Maelstrom reaches him. Pure destruction. Unavoidable, utterly certain. Here at the end, he understands that he can love, that he is alive, that he can die. But today, his death is gonna be worth it. Because Herbie, who lived at the Baxter Building, assisted the Fantastic Four. Today, he is saving the people he loves. The Fantastic Four arriving in the atmosphere above Earth. Sue quickly puts up a bubble around them, and as they crash down to the surface, as they make their arrival back home, the Fantastic Four made it back home safe and sound, with Ben back to his normal self, back to the Thing. With a great reunion, we pick up later that evening. This is where Reed and Val have a conversation. Something was off with what they did. They went to the Big Bang and nothing was supposed to change. But the thing is, something did change. Herbie was never supposed to be at the Big Bang. He was never supposed to die there. But every cosmological model that they may have, the Big Bang should have created matter and antimatter in perfect symmetry. But that means that they would destroy each other in perfect symmetry as well, leaving nothing behind. That never happened, which means in the earliest moments of the universe, something favored one over the other, ever so slightly. The tiniest imbalance. That what was needed for their universe to be filled with quarks and atoms and molecules and matter and everything. And Reed, he acknowledges this, that they've never been able to figure out how that imbalance could happen, why it happened. A problem in modern physics since its discovery. But earlier today for them, Herbie sacrificed himself. She cannot stop thinking about how they were both made of matter. As they were destroyed, the ship and Herbie annihilated an equivalent amount of antimatter. Just enough to put a thumb on the scale. Just enough to change the early universe. The smallest change to the angle for a colossal effect. What they did today could have changed the trajectory of the entire universe. But Reed tells her, like, I think this is too big for any of us to figure out. Impossible to prove. But he rebuilt Herbie today, restored him back to his pre-upgraded backup. He informed him of everything that transpired, informed him of the trip that he took. No knowledge of what had been done prior to this. And Herbie said the most curious of things. He told Reed that if he were ever moved to sacrifice himself, he believed it would be because of love. And if love is the reason why there is something in their universe instead of nothing, why there is endless life instead of endless void, Reed may not be a robot, but that most definitely computes. And this will be the end of that series. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments. One hell of a 6 issues. One World Under Doom did not disappoint when it came to the Fantastic Four. Ben losing his powers, Franklin Richards becoming Galactus, the Fantastic Four going back in time, Herbie sacrificing himself, and the running theory that they're going with is that Herbie sacrificed out of love. It changed the balance of matter and antimatter and allowed life to flourish. That it destroyed just enough antimatter where matter could grow, where matter could evolve, where matter could become everything that we know and love in this universe. With his instantaneous decision to sacrifice himself and save the Fantastic Four, he very likely could have helped create the whole universe. I'm really hoping with issue number 1 of the Fantastic Four starting next month that we get a little bit of Franklin Richards coming into his power again. Now, I understand why Marvel kind of nerfed him, kind of hid away his power. They tucked him away and pretended that Franklin Richards' powers just didn't exist. Because Franklin's powers are stupid. Like, he literally wakes up once a year and rewrites history. He looks at the worst things that are going to happen in that year and he alters them. The question is, what happens in this year in Marvel Universe that Franklin Richards didn't alter this moment? Or maybe he just saw that the heroes would win. Maybe the only moments that he alters are the moments that they truly aren't gonna win. That he lets history and reality unfold as it is, only changing the things that could completely end everything. We really don't know what Franklin changes. We don't know what reality he rewrites. We just know that once a year, he wakes up, he examines the year to come, and then he makes his altercations from there, goes to sleep, forgets he has powers, and then a year later repeats the same thing. Everybody believed that he no longer had powers, and up to this point, he has been successful in hiding that. But now, Valeria knows. She knows that he has powers. With the cat being out of the bag, what happens next? One thing is for certain, we need something big, because if you're gonna be bringing in a heavy hitter reality warping mofo like Franklin Richards, you better have something strong to face him. You could argue that Franklin Richards is simply too powerful to exist in the Marvel Universe. That it's only a matter of time before they take away his powers completely, or they kill him in some manner. He's just too powerful. But I would love for Marvel to figure something out, someone out, that he could go against. I mean, hell, we got the Marvel versus DC crossover coming up. What was it, Deadpool and Batman? Do a Dr. Manhattan and Franklin Richards, man. Like, give me some competition, bro. But let me know what you guys think. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your theories. If you want to get caught up on everything that is going on with this series, go ahead, check out the link in my description as well as the top of this video. It's going to get you caught up on everything that has been going on with the Fantastic Four. If you would like to support the channel, you can always do so by joining the channel membership. Much like Patreon, having multiple different tiers, from $1 to $50 from loyalty badges to comics every single month. Not only are you helping out the channel tremendously, you are getting tons of perks in the process. Now, if you're unable to do this, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel, like this video, hit that notification bell, and with that being said, until the next breakdown.